Welcome to Garage Gym Athlete Ask Me Anything. It's pretty simple. I'll be answering questions from the thousands of athletes that follow our daily programming. If you have a question or topic you want submitted, go to garagegymathlete.com/AMA. Let's get started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
How's it going, man?
It's going well. Doing a little Ask Me Anything today. And we'll get right to it.
As per usual.
Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about anything else. Yeah,
right.
Okay, so this is from Chris. So Chris, I'm going to go ahead and apologize, man. This one kind of got lost in the AMA questions. It's getting close to a year since this question has been asked. So anyway, we'll get to it. Chris, any advice on books and resources you've read on entrepreneurship that helped you along the way to building this awesome business? Would love to hear the podcast on the origins and growth of Garage Gym Athlete over the years. Thanks for all you do, Jerred. Thank you, Chris. We could talk about origin story. When did you get here?
August 2015.
August 2015. And I guess Into 3 Fitness technically started October 2011. But let's talk books, because that, I don't know, it's a long story already to get
I've
from
been around. I just realized I've been around longer than 50% of the company length age.
Yeah, like I'm waiting to get to that point in my marriage where it's like I've been with you longer than I was ever by myself. Okay, but to books, when I first got started, now I am an absolute avid reader. I read a lot. I don't read anything but like self-development and business books for the most part. Joe's even challenged me to read
we've
fantasy
tried.
book, a fiction book, and I've made it like 60 pages, and I don't have that internal motivation to keep going. But the book that really helped me kick things off, because the first program we sold was One Man, One Barbell. But the first thing I ever actually sold was called The Ultimate WOD Log. And it was, I was into CrossFit at the time. And so I sold that. It was like a $5 thing, basically like a really fancy Excel spreadsheet. It was pretty cool. But that was just getting started, testing the waters. The first like plan I had in getting, executed, getting a program out there, trying to be smart about it, was One Man, One Barbell. And it did really well. But the book behind it that kind of helped me get started was a book called The $100 Startup by Chris Gilbo. It's a very unusual spelling, but it's The $100 Startup. Relatively old book, to be honest. I don't know if any of it would be applicable today, because like we're talking 9-10 years ago I read that book. But that definitely helped me get started. The other book that I recommend all the time is The One Thing. And that's just because it taught me a lot about how to focus on like one goal and not get distracted easily, which I think in entrepreneurship is very, very, very easy. Like, that for people to like jump around to new ideas and not stay focused on one thing. And so that was a big one. But other than that, like, I don't like to attribute one book to the business growth or anything like that. There's a whole team here that's helping do that. Joe, Ashley, Kyle, VD, Marco, everybody is helping in that process. And the fact that I probably put away 40 to 50 books a year on business and self-development, I think all of those things combined help grow the business. But that's how we got started in some of the more notable books. I mean, I have a ton of other book recommendations, but it's always like they get a little bit more specific about, okay, what are you trying to do, and should we read it? How about you, Joe? You got any book recommendations? You're a big reader too.
Yeah, so I was the exact opposite in the fact that I only read fiction, fantasy, stuff like that, and never in the nonfiction, self-help, any kind of realm, because it just didn't really apply or care about it. It doesn't really interest me. But the very first one that I did, I think, was Because of You, and it was The Power of Habit, and that one I really liked. I definitely enjoyed that one. There's a lot of good things to take away from it. So I'm more of, and I haven't consumed any books that are in the business and entrepreneurship field, but general self help stuff I've done. And then now that we're doing our monthly book reviews on the podcast as well, push to some new ones. So Power of Habit is a great one, and there's a lot of good things to pick up from it. It's about building habits, and I think if you're gonna do anything entrepreneur wise, I think you need to have the right habits and things dialed down. And then the not quite sequel, but sequel to the same author also released. This is probably, I think I like this one better than Power Habit, and that was Smarter, Faster, Better. That one was really, really good. It actually talks about business processes and other things of how to be more efficient in your life and in things that you're doing. That one is a really, really good one. So especially if you like Power of Habit, then Smarter, Faster, Better is like the next step up from that. It was really, really good. And extreme ownership, we actually talk about this sometimes as well, like throughout the company, and just as things happen. This is a really good one, just to having ownership of what you're doing, of your own life, of your own business, and not playing the blame game and such like that. And I guess the last one I would do is I had to check to make sure I have it. We read it together, and that was Gary V's Crushing It.
Hmm.
He's got a bunch of really good books, but Crushing It is the only one that I've read. That one's really good. And he also narrates his own audiobooks, and it just, I think it emphasizes it a little bit better. But his is really good. He's always hustling, and he's a big entrepreneur and such as well. So those are four that I would definitely recommend checking out.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that list, deep work is another one. Like the one thing teaches you how to focus, and then deep work gives you a little bit more practical, tactical, like how you should structure your day. So deep work is a really good one. And then yeah, I think just staying like things that interest you. I've done a lot on mindset. I've done a lot on leadership, or read a lot on these topics. And then more recently gotten into a bunch of biographies and autobiographies, just because I think if the best way to learn from successful people is just to kind of pick things apart from their life and get as much of it as you can, learn the lessons that they went through. But I think if anyone's looking to go on this entrepreneurship journey, it really is the whole thing is just a journey in self development. Like because there's so many things that you have to manage that go beyond the business, and it's really challenging at times. Going back to kind of the origin story, and we can kind of end after this, but I started getting really I didn't read that much before I was an entrepreneur. Like I was in the like a couple of books per year camp. And then once I realized I really need to kick things up, that's when I started reading a ton, and I still do that to this day. Uh, but there was a definite when I was part-time doing Into 3 Fitness, like the business just could not grow. Like it and there's like a really scary point where you have to make that decision of like, all right, I'm going all in on this. Um, and most people are smarter than me when they do that. They have like a decent amount of money in savings and stuff. Like that wasn't my reality. We basically had no money at all, and then we decided to go full time entrepreneurs, and that caused a lot of stress and anxiety. So I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. I don't think that's how it has to be done. So if anyone does want to go down this path, I think you need to be a learner, learn as much as you can, take courses. That's another thing I do. Read books and um, be smarter than I was if you're going to get started. And then what was I going to say? There was one more thing about fitness books. I always like to throw this in there because people ask me this question. This is just related. They ask me like, what kind of fitness books do I read to like stay up to date on things? Um, I read uh, a lot of studies, as people know, because like for every one study you hear on the podcast, I had to read like 10 other studies just to prep for that episode. And then fitness books in general, there aren't a ton of them out there that read like books. Like I think Alex Hutchinson's Endure is the only book I've ever read where I'm like, you actually did it. Somehow you did it. You wrote a fitness book that was like fun to read, because most of these other ones, and I have a ton of them just like sitting around my office and on my bookshelf, about training, about energy systems, about these like sports training and like all these different things, but they read like textbooks. They're not like fun reads. And so a lot of times I just pick out portions or I'll read the whole thing if it is relatively good. Um, and I have a bunch of those as well, but those are never audiobooks. I'm always like picking things apart, reading chapters here and there. Um, and I could recommend those books if people ever wanted to know, but they're just very different. It's a whole different animal. And I mean, after you kind of learn the basics of that stuff, unless you're trying to learn a very specific like programming principle from a coach, I don't think they're more helpful than like reading a study and just trying to get better at it yourself.
Yeah, it's literally the other day I asked you guys about a online exercise science course that Liz was thinking about, and your answer was you just read the NSCA.
Yeah, get a textbook.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all you got to do, and then you know more than most people out there. Cool. Well, Chris, thanks for the question. If you guys do have any more questions, go to garagegymathlete.com/AMA. I hear word on the street is we're also putting a link in the YouTube description for this now. So
it's there
there
now.
actually is a place to access this if you want to click the link and ask a question. And this really can be anything, guys. If you want to ask a question, if there's a scientific study that you would like for us to cover more in depth, we just kind of go with the flow with whatever these things. But if we need to like really prep for them and like dive into some studies because you do have a complex question, we're happy to do that. Um, the only thing that we do stay away from, if you're like, hey, my question wasn't answered, we don't do, there's a lot of questions that are borderline product reviews, and we're just not in the business of doing product reviews. And it's not because we don't want to plug a company. We just don't, we like have no experience with that product. So like, what are we going to say? So like theoretical, like whatever. So anyway, we stay away from those for the most part, just because we have what we have and we're not looking to review products. But any other questions, fair game about training, programming, entrepreneurship, anything. So yeah, that's it, guys. If you are listening to the podcast, 5-star review, positive comment really helps the show, and I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're near YouTube, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, thumbs up. That's it for today. Thanks for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed today's Ask Me Anything episode. So one more time, if you want to submit a question, topic, or idea, you can do so at garagegymathlete.com/AMA. And hey, while you're there, if you haven't already, sign up for Garage Gym Athlete membership. We are the best community and programming on the internet. I dare you to try and prove me wrong.